Based on Spin, Paramore's Hard Times rules. Rock music is no longer pop music, this we know. If you look at this week's Billboard Hot 100, you have to go all the way down to number 47 to find the first rock band, Imagine Dragons. If you go searching for a second, you'll scroll right off the page. Instead, our current rock stars are pretty much anything else: EDM DJs, rappers, pop virtuosos, talking country singers, etc. Harry Styles could pass, but he was a pop heartthrob from the beginning. Maroon 5, who used to at least play guitars, long ago turned themselves over to the pop machine. 21 Pilots scored 3 gigantic hits last year. As a nominal rock band, they re-signed to Wentz fueled by Ramen, but guitars appear only intermittently, if at all, on those singles. All of which makes Paramore a continued unlikely success story. Their 2013 self-titled album spawned 2 hits, Still Into You and Ain't It Fun, that bridged rock and pop earnestly, prominently incorporating elements like science and gospel choirs. But both songs were built around central and very catchy guitar riffs. With Hard Times, the lead single off their upcoming album After Laughter, Paramore seemed to be signaling a willingness to stand out as that very endangered species, the crossover rock band, by pushing even further into pop than ever before. This is signaled immediately, with bongos and marimbas that open the song, before its drums and guitars really steady it. The riff is easily the most danceable thing they've recorded, and the refrain that punctuates the chorus, Hard Times, feels like a bit of very classic 80s pop songwriting. The song then ends with an outro that pushes the guitars into the background in favor of signs and unintelligible vocoder scribbles. There is no mistaking what kind of single Paramore is pushing here, but all of this serves to accent what is still a rock song and rock band at heart. The levels have been tweaked again, but only just a bit. What Paramore has pulled off with Hard Times does not seem easy. They've expanded their sound, at once quite obviously, but also subtly, in the margins, and come out of the other side with what immediately feels like one of the best singles of their career, and one of the best pop songs of the new year. In a New York Times story that was rolled out this morning along with the song and video, Paramore makes it clear that Hard Times is a precursor for their most pop album yet. But they say that they once again eschewed proposed collaborations with industry songwriters and producers, instead following a natural path to this landing spot. This shouldn't feel as rebellious, or even as exciting, as it does, but such is the state of popular music. It's also an interesting experiment, even if you don't care for Paramore's music. Can a rock band make rock music, but also pop music, in 2017, and be as popular as Zed? As much as I want to know the answer, I am still kind of scared to find out. Based on Huffington Post, Paramore just released new music and our inner team can't handle it. It's the group's first new song in 4 years. No need to be in the business of misery anymore, folks. Paramore just dropped their first new song in 4 years. Please excuse us while we pop-punk jump for joy. The song, titled Hard Times, is a retro take on Paramore's classic punk rock pop sound. The music video has a distinctive throwback vibe, with colorful squiggles and neon illustrations covering the screen. Hard Times is the debut single off of Paramore's forthcoming album After Laughter, due May 12th. The single is the band's first release since their 2013 self-titled album. I didn't even know if we were going to make another record, lead singer Hayley Williams told the New York Times. There was a moment when I didn't even want it to happen. Then it was like, I want it to happen, but I don't know how we're going to do it. Luckily for their fans, they figured it out. Hard Times also marks the return of founding member and drummer Zach Farrow. Farrow and his brother Josh left Paramore In 2010, after a bitter rift, Josh later said he and his bandmates were just riding on the coattails of Hayley's dream. Well, it appears Hayley Williams and Pharoah have put the hard times behind them. Not only do they have a new album on the horizon, but the band also announced a summer tour in Europe. Grab your Vans and studded belts, people, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Based on Nerdist, Paramore release Hard Times, announced new album After Laughter. We've heard rumblings from Hayley Williams over the last few years, but Paramore fans haven't heard new material from the band since 2013's eponymous record. Now, 7 years after the infamously acrimonious departure of the Pharoah brothers, Zac Pharoah, the band's founding drummer has reunited with Paramore ahead of their new album, After Laughter. Listen to the new single, Hard Times, below. Following the infectiously poppy trajectory of their previous record, Hard Times is an angular, disco-inflected, rock gem that turns the plight of its subject matter into soaring, iridescent anthem. Paramore have always mined microcosmic personal struggle since their 2005 debut, but it's refreshing to hear the band to invert the tone of the accompanying instrumentation, defying a little rain cloud hanging over my head to ruin more important things. The music video set echoes this, as a car accident, barren trees, and DIY thunderclouds yield to bright pastel colors, while the band looks like they're re-wearing the clothing from Blondie's Parallel Lines. Instead of wallowing in the dark, a temptingly simple distraction, Paramore are more interested in turning the lights on. After Laughter debuts May 12th via Fueled by Ramen, with an accompanying tour to be announced shortly after. Check above for the album's artwork, which might have been done by MC Escher if he had grown up a century later, and below for the full track list. Let us know what you think about Paramore's return on Twitter. After Laughter tag list, 01 Hard Times 0 2 Rose Colored Boy 03 Told You So 04 Forgiveness 05 Fake Happy 06 26 07 Pools 08 Grudges 09 Caught in the Middle 10 Idol Worship 11 No Friend 12 Tell Me How. Based on the New York Times, Paramore bounces back with old faces and a new sound. Nashville Hayley Williams needed a break from Paramore hair. For more than a decade, while she established herself as one of the most dynamic mainstream rock singers of her generation, Ms. Williams was recognizable for her dramatic razor-cut bangs and bobs in bursts of violent color, typically the loudest synthetic shades of red, orange and pink. "I had a haircut that could have murdered you," she said of the look that helped make her an icon of the Mall Punk Warped Tour set. Yet as her band, Paramore, worked to transcend its restrictive genre dogmas across 4 increasingly ambitious albums, taking the angsty pop-punk of the MySpace moment to the Grammys and the Billboard charts largely on the strength of Ms. Williams' voice, the singer, now 28, began to feel beholden to a visual shtick. Last year, staring down a deep depression amid more personnel changes in a band plagued by them and questioning herself under the hefty burdens of adulthood, Ms. Williams opted for a blank slate, she said, her currently white blonde locks further minimized under a beanie. "You can run on the fumes of being a teenager for as long as you want, but eventually life hits you really hard," Ms. Williams, a mighty presence who barely cracks 5 feet, explained last month, speaking for the first time about the tumultuous period since Paramore last released an album in 2013. "I didn't even know if we were going to make another record," she said. "There was a moment when I didn't even want it to happen. Then it was like, I want it to happen, but I don't know how we were going to do it." Continue reading the main story. Paramore, somehow, pulled it off again. On May 12th, the band will release After Laughter, its 5th LP, introducing another lineup. Each Paramore album has featured a different combination of members around Ms. Williams, and, more notably, a new sound. Instead of the meaty, distorted power chords and hyperactive riffs of its adolescence, Paramore has dipped into cleaner, more rhythmic and synth-kiss textures of the 70s and 80s, owing to recent obsessions with Talking Heads, Tom Tom Club, Cyndi Lauper, and Blondie. But while the group has long functioned in its own bizarre hybrid milieu, 2 rock for pop and 2 pop for rock, said the guitarist and Ms. Williams' chief songwriting partner, Taylor York, Paramore returns to a top 40 landscape even less hospitable to guitars, and the one it left on an idiosyncratic high note. Ain't It Fun, which won a Grammy for Best Rock Song, was also the band's highest chart and crossover single. In pop, a throwback 80s sound has since been tried with varying degrees of faithfulness and success by the likes of Taylor Swift, Carly Rae Jepsen and Jason Derulo, but has not, of late, been credibly executed by a band. Paramore, though, may be suited to this moment. Miss Williams, cartoon hair or not, remains the focus, and her nimble melodies and sneakily huge pop hooks are as crisp and magnetic as ever, unbeholden to genre walls. As a frontwoman, Miss Williams' shadow of influence has only grown during her break from music, with the most vibrant rock, especially in offshoots of punk, coming increasingly from female-led bands who aren't afraid of a chorus. Bethany Cosentino, the lead singer of Best Coast, called Ms. Williams an industry mentor, despite being her elder by 2 years. "She is the most humble person I've ever known," Ms. Cosentino said. "She is a major superstar, but on any given day in Nashville you'll see her in the back at a show. She is still true to her punk roots." Ms. Williams demurred at suggestions that for a new generation of female musicians, she represents what Gwen Stefani of No Doubt and Shirley Manson of Garbage were for her, insisting that she is the one inspired by much younger acts, like Cherry Glazzer, Taco Cat, and Bleached. But she also recalled her determination when Paramore started in a male-dominated scene. "If we were booked on a bill with all dudes that were twice as old as us, I wanted to be better than any of them," Miss Williams said. "I didn't care if they had the penis or not. I had to be great at my job." Musically, her band can do whatever we want, and then when Haley gets on it, that's what makes it Paramore, Mr. York, 27, said, adding that his recent guitar tones and phrasings had also been inspired by Afrobeat and other international sounds. "We've gotten to a point with our new music where we don't really want to headbang anymore." In addition to a fresh direction, After Laughter is a partial reunion for the group, which, during recording, welcomed back the drummer and founding member Zach Farrow. Formed in 2004 as a teenage garage band in Franklin, Paramore fractured nearly 7 years ago when Mr. Farrow and his older brother, Josh, then the main songwriter, quit in a fit of acrimony, having dubbed the band a manufactured product of a major label that became all about Haley. Paramore's 2011 Damage Control interview with MTV is an excruciating document of an awkward period. Mr. Farrow's homecoming developed gradually after a personal rekindling with Mr. York, his childhood best friend. That became a necessity because the pair kept running into each other socially. "Every teenage year that I lived was in this band, on tour," said Mr. Farrow, 26, a lovable goof whose mellow presence balances that of his more high-strung bandmates. "I needed a reset button." Carlos de la Garza, who worked as an audio engineer on After Laughter and its self-titled predecessor, called Mr. York and Mr. Farrow, who spent his time away traveling New Zealand and making his own music, true kindred spirits. What resulted from that refreshed partnership were many jubilant, even danceable, instrumental tracks that Miss Williams then flipped on their head. "There was a little bit of a dark side creeping into Haley's psyche," Mr. de la Garza said. "Something was eating at her, and she was able to use a lot of that as fuel for lyrics." Despite the joyful, collaborative energy that stemmed from the reconciliation with Mr. Farrow, Miss Williams agreed that there was a dark cloud over the writing and recording process, stemming from relationship issues, both personal and professional. "In the last 2 years, a lot of life happened," said Miss Williams, who married a fellow musician, Chad Gilbert of New Found Glory, last February. Just before that, Paramore announced that it had parted with its longtime bassist, Jeremy Davis, who in a lawsuit invoked claims that have long dogged the band, and especially Miss Williams. While Mr. Davis contends in court papers that he was a creative partner, entitled to additional profits from songwriting royalties, merchandise, and live shows, preemptive filings on behalf of Ms. Williams noted that she is the only member officially signed to Atlantic Records, leaving the rest of Paramore to be paid as at-will employees. Low wires for the singer noted that because she wanted to foster a feeling of camaraderie within the band, at her direction, the band members' salaries included a portion of Williams' earnings. Derek Crownover, a lawyer for Mr. Davis, said in a statement, "Jeremy Davis did not leave the band," adding that the bassist did not initiate the lawsuit either. While the case is ongoing, Mr. Crownover expressed hope for an amicable settlement soon. Again? Miss Williams asked herself as she pondered the group's fate. "I prayed until my knees bled, pretty much," she said, acknowledging that Paramore has at times felt more like a soap opera and a band. "We were down another member, same old story almost from day one," she continued. "It made me question everything. Am I doing something wrong? You read things that people say about you and eventually you just think, oh, I must be some kind of diva bitch. I know that's not me, but it caused a lot of self-doubt." Miss Williams, never one for love songs, channeled her disquiet into an album preoccupied with betrayal, disappointment, and regret. Hard Times, the opening song and first single, begins with lines like, "All that I want is a hole in the ground you can tell me when it's alright for me to come out." Elsewhere, she sings, "I can't think of getting old / it only makes me want to die," while other album highlights are titled Forgiveness, sample lyric, "I just can't do it yet," Fake Happy, and Grudges. "I couldn't imagine putting something on an album that says life's great, everything's cool, pretty with me," Miss Williams said. And it's true that despite long-running accusations of major label meddling in Paramore's career, the band has written its own often bitter songs across 3 straight platinum albums without fiddling from the pop machine. Though its members said their record label has previously tried to pair them with hitmakers of the moment, "We've somehow earned our freedom," said Mr. York, Paramore's softest-spoken member. "I can't imagine getting up there and playing a Max Martin song," he said. "At that point we might as well just stop." Now, as Paramore moves from re-establishing its foundation in private to the public glare of an obsessive, impatient fanbase, its members are openly anxious about how it will be portrayed and received. One recent night, the trio attended a hockey game for its hometown Nashville Predators, something they hadn't done as a group since childhood. Exceedingly gracious to all who recognized them, there remained a nervous but endearing energy among the band, not unlike recently reconciled exes around skeptical old friends. Yet in quiet moments, as Mr. York, Mr. Farrow, and Ms. Williams picked food out of each other's teeth and retreated to the safety of inside jokes, they couldn't help but seem downright content. This is what you go through hard times for, so you can have these moments where you're proud of yourself, proud of your choices, and your friends, Miss Williams said. "I have a public diary of my life," she added, "and I feel useful because of it."